Hello and welcome back to another Do As We Do Live. First, I must say happy National Caregiver Day to all those caregivers out there. Today is the day that we give you a big hug, a big thank you for all the work that you do. And next, I want to say I am that Kimberly, and I am here for another Do As We Do Live. We have been on a little hiatus. We actually had a scheduled live on Tuesday, but since we are based in good old Texas and we were having a polar vortex occur, our guest today was nice enough to allow us to reschedule with him. And so we're super excited to have him here on our live. As everyone knows, the Do As We Do mission is to break that unprepared caregiver cycle, and by making them have that conversation earlier, and also by getting them prepared, because it's really not, I don't want to say that, I'm going to start that over again, because it's not about if you die, but it's about if you live. Then what? Can you take care of yourself? Have you told your loved ones what you wanted? So we cover topics like that on this live. And today we are speaking with the author of a new children's book, My Grandmother Has Dementia. His name is Alex, and I might mess this up. I might not. I'm going to go for it. Winstanley. He's going to correct me, but he says I could say it either way. And he's going to share his experience with us and his inspiration for the book. But before I jump into that, I want to acknowledge everyone that's joining us on the Facebook, as Brandon says, as well as Do As We Do's YouTube channel and my personal LinkedIn. I have to say thank you, everyone. Thank you, Angelica. Thank you, Laura, for joining us. And thank you, Diana. And as people come on, we'll definitely thank you, everyone, for being with us we have been a little bit more sporadic this month, or this in the 2021, but we're going to get back to our regular schedule. So wherever you're coming from, please ask questions in the comments. We want to know what's important to you. While you're there, please hit the subscribe button, the follow, and the like. And if you do watch on the replay, tell us where we're watching from. And last but not least, everyone knows a caregiver. They think that they don't, but I promise you, you do. A caregiver is that person that works their full-time job and cares for a loved one that has a disability, in my case, dementia, obviously, or and they're an unpaid caregiver. So on this day, we get to talk to Alex about his experience. And before I do that, I do want to remind people that the Do As We Do Foundation is here for those reasons, to get people educated, to build a community of support for them, resources, and to continue to grow a fund for them to help them in need, because we're going to be around for the long haul, not the short haul. Every single day since 2011, 10,000 people turned 65. And the number of caregivers out there that are caring for their loved ones with some sort of dementia is nuts. I believe in the US, the number was 53 million from AARP. And in the UK, I believe it was 13.6 million, according to Caregivers Weekly or caregiversweek.org. So just want to let y'all know that we're not going anywhere, because it takes a village. And without further ado, I'm going to bring my guest in. I'm going to get rid of some of these banners, and I'm going to say thank you, Alex, for joining me today and rescheduling with us.
No
Hi,
worries. Hello. Hi, everyone.
Alex. We'll say a little more thank you to Joe Melton for joining us, and Kristen. So yeah, let's jump into it. First off, We are. The fun part about this, right, is that where you're coming from, like where you're at internationally.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm all the way from the UK, in the north of England, the northwest, right in between Manchester and Liverpool, in a little town called Wigan. So yeah, that's where we are, the north, the north. So if you can understand my accent, if you're living in Texas or anywhere in the US, apparently as well, yeah, you're doing pretty well.
I have been. So tell folks a little insight about your background before we jump right into the whole story of your family.
Sure, yeah. So my background is in teaching. Wanting to be a teacher. I was a physical education teacher for
Mhm.
5 years, and yeah, that's all I ever wanted to be for a long time. I just wanted to teach and be around children and young people, and try and have a positive impact on children and young people in some way. And that's the thing that I knew, was to teach people, and that's all I've always really enjoyed. Been very passionate about helping people. So
Uh-huh.
that sort of came from there. And at the same time, I've been a part-time carer for young disabled adults for the past 8 years.
Hmm.
And yeah, again, those two sort of careers combined, when I left my teaching job a couple of years ago to set up a non-profit organisation called Happy Smiles Training CIC, and we deliver disability awareness and social inclusion training now across the northwest of England, all led by a team of young disabled adults. So
That's
that's
awesome.
something I'm extremely passionate about, and that's where, like I say, those two careers came together, and that's what I now do.
Yeah. Well, I totally understand passion, firing, and that's how Do As We Do nonprofit, came about, because the passion that I have for educating others to not be in the same position that we're in. I say we, meaning, like I watched your Facebook Live when you did the launch of your book with your mom,
Yeah,
and just listening, to her talk about the book, and you talk about reminding her of the times, I get chills. It was very emotional, brought me to tears, because I know that feeling, right? I saw my mom, care for her parents,
yeah,
and now I'm in that same position. I feel very fortunate that, even though we weren't prepared, she has retirement, social security, but not everybody is in that position, and they're in that middle bracket. The stats that I read and that I did research on to get me to even starting the foundation was the 1% of the world will be able to afford it. There'll
right.
be a percent of the world that qualifies for help, and then everybody in the middle doesn't, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's hard.
Yeah.
So tell us, your what share that experience, growing up with your watching, your mom help and care for your grandmother.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I guess I had a really, really close relationship with my grandma, as you'll have seen from the video, Kimberly, as well. And it was a little bit emotional at times. And I guess, just so everyone knows, that my grandma just passed away just before Christmas, so 2 days before Christmas, and
Ah,
it was quite a shock. It sort of was very quick, but at the same time, very peaceful. And my mum was allowed to be there with the care home. They did tests and different things so she could be there, and
that's
it was
awesome.
which was amazing. Yeah, so we can't thank the care home enough, and that's something that I'll talk about in a little bit. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it was really peaceful, really, really lucky. She didn't have to go into hospital and on all that, which with COVID going on would be really difficult. So we were really close, and I just grew up, full of love for my grandma. She was full of love for me and my sister. And yeah, we had the best times growing up with my grandma. Like we it shows it in the book, but we go and literally tip a house upside down, make a mess, bake cakes, and she just didn't care. She just let us, have a great time. And then, yeah, really close relationship. And um,
When did your mom start to notice that there was something wrong, or did you as children start to know? Like, what age were you?
yeah, I guess we always thought, how why is grandma forgetting certain things, or why is she repeating certain questions time and time again? And as we got older, we started to question that more, and notice things more. and she got diagnosed around just over 10 years ago, 10, 11 years ago with mixed dementia. But before then, we knew there was something that was sort of going on. She was showing the signs and symptoms, and that's my mum. My mum has cared for my grandma every day of my life.
Mhm.
So nearly 30 years that
Wow.
I've known. She was a primary carer, and I saw the stress that brought. And yeah, I mean, we can talk about that too, I guess.
What kind of you said it was mixed dementia?
Yeah,
Was so she got a true diagnosis of
yeah,
okay.
yeah. I think vascular dementia
Got
was a specific type.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, so yeah.
What
Yeah,
what was the stress? What did you notice in your mom?
I guess we talked about it before, but it was just my mum would take herself away, and it was the sort of like I'm fine, but really you knew that it wasn't fine. And my mum's like me, sort of wears her heart on her sleeve, and you can really
Yeah.
see when there's emotion there. And I
Yeah.
always say to her, look, it's so easy to spot, you can't hide it. Like
Yeah.
just talk about it, talk about. And yeah, I guess it was just seeing, she was going to my grandma's house 3, 4 times a day. My grandma lived alone.
Mm,
And my grandma might fall and she would go and help her, but she would never want anyone else to come and help.
ugh,
Like, and my grandma lived with us for a year or so as well in our house, just in this room actually. And yeah, which is cool. And we still got the little TV up over there, what she used to watch.
oh.
And
Was
yeah,
that a struggle to get her to move into with you to
yeah,
leave her home, like, to move? Because 'cause I'm doing that right now, like,
yeah,
I'm like, "Mom, you can't be here by yourself anymore," right? Like,
yeah, yeah.
"I'll
It
go
was
to
so,
jail," I tell her, "I'll go to jail because you're gonna burn the house down and
right,
it's gonna be neglect," right?
right.
How was that experience for your mom with your grandma?
Great question. Great question. It was so difficult. My mum, even towards the end of my grandma's life, felt some sort of guilt when my grandma even lived in a care home
Mhm.
nearby, which I'll get onto, which was the best thing she ever did. But
Yeah.
we were very scared for a long time of my grandma moving out of a home which she recognised. It was familiar surroundings, and we knew a little bit from what we knew about dementia at the time was that people liked that familiar surroundings.
Yeah.
So, like I say, my mum would visit 3, 4 times a day, stay at night time, and I remember towards the end of her living on her own in her house, she would I mean we put her to bed, and sometimes I would leave. My wife and I would leave, and it was dark. And I knew she was scared of the dark a little bit too, and it was really difficult to leave her. So to move her into our home was where we all felt that she was safe and comfortable, and we were really happy about that. But at the
Mm.
same time, we realized later, looking back, we were actually killing her with kindness, as my mum puts it, because um, we were cocooning her and not giving her the stimulation that she
Yeah.
needed. Whereas the care home gave her so much stimulation, so many activities. We couldn't believe it. It was literally unbelievable.
Yeah.
So yeah, really, some really really tough decisions. Terrifying decisions at times especially because of the care home and the media, how that portrays care homes. And there's some terrible care homes and care facilities, but
Well,
also some amazing ones too.
I like to tell people, since I don't have children, I like to tell people it's like a parent sending, because I have friends that have had to find a daycare and they do interviews. It's no different than sending your children off to a daycare or the first day of school when everybody gets
Right.
emotional, like you've raised these children, you've birthed these children, right? And now you got to send them off into the world. It's a reverse because these are the people that raised you, right? And you love them, you want to protect them, you are being asked to make these decisions. That did your mom and your grandmother ever have that discussion about what do you do if I can't take care of myself anymore? Did that conversation ever happen? Do you know?
No, no, to be honest, it was literally so my granddad died, my grandma's husband died a year before I was born, and literally from that moment on, my mum just took over everything with my grandma, and my
Mhm.
grandma has always sort of needed that support. She needed the support from my granddad, and then when he died, it just automatically became my mum's responsibility. And she was always very soft in that she would let people look after her almost. She
Yeah.
loved looking after other people, but she didn't really look after herself. Like she would let my mum come and help her, and it was just almost unspoken, and it just happened. And my mum, yeah, like I say, just primary caregiver from then on forever.
Wow. Wow. So I feel like it doesn't matter, just, I think it's a generational thing that they just don't speak about it, and we need to be
Right.
speaking about it, right?
I
Because
agree.
then and more people need to be, and we'll talk about the book, but having those conversations with children at a younger age in a way that doesn't scare them and doesn't keep them from asking continued questions, because we're all going to be in the same position. There was a stat, it was a Ways and Means Committee in November 19th of 2019 that I watched, that got me all riled up about, um, Do As We Do, the foundation. And it talked about the last 2 years of everyone's life, we're going to need help.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether, if you have dementia or not, you're going to need help
Yeah.
in your life, right? And getting around, there is a small percentage that are super healthy, but I can't say I'm in probably that percentage, but you never know. But it takes a village, just like raising children, and making those decisions like your mom had to make.
Yeah.
They're gut wrenching.
Yeah.
How many facilities did she go to before she made and decided on the facility she chose?
Yeah, it's so interesting, and I'm glad you said gut wrenching, because it was such a difficult decision.
I could see her tears in her face when she was
Oh,
talking about it.
yeah, oh yeah. If people watch the live video, is still on my Facebook page, and you can see that, like,
Mhm.
it's difficult. And even though she knew how much the care home did for my grandma, it was still, looking back, it's still emotional. So
Yeah.
I know she went to sort of 5, 6, 7 multiple care homes, and on this day, and she tells this story that she was ready to give up. She was literally just, that was
Yeah.
it. She'd been to the last one, and she was like, I cannot let my mum live in some of these facilities. And then suddenly she just had this sort of light bulb went, and she was like, no, I'm going to try one more. And
Mhm.
she tried Windsor House, which is where my grandma lived,
Yeah.
and she was like, this is perfect.
Aw.
So yeah.
Must make. What were the activities like? What did they have her doing?
Oh, it's so funny. Like, the first day I ever walked in, the soccer World Cup was on at the time, and England were in the World Cup, and they did really well in this World Cup. And my grandma never watched sport, never watched soccer really. I never watched this. She'd watch Coronation Street, for example, and
Mhm.
so so I walked into this care home, and she sat in the middle of all these residents with an England, like a hat on, flags, and they're all, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, you I didn't know whether to laugh or cry or both. I didn't know what to do. It was so emotional. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was just things like that. Giving, my grandma sometimes, because of the dementia, would refuse to do some activities, but then we noticed over time that she refused less and less, and then was just involved in the different games. They would have them, for one example, when it's summer, which is pretty rare in England,
Yeah.
that you get a sunny day. But when it was sunny, they would take them outside, and have the residents with the feet in buckets of sand and water, as if it's on the beach, like, lovely sensory activities like that,
Yeah.
to stimulate the brain. And I thought it was brilliant. There was one time where we saw, they used to send, the best thing they did was they send pictures and videos every day, which just was so heartwarming. And
Yeah.
we could see the smile on my grandma's face, and everybody. I've had so many people message me from, like, big care organizations who would visit the home, and they would say, I met your grandma, and her smile would make my day. And that's what's
Aw.
reflected in the book too. But yeah, just amazing activities,
Yeah.
that we never thought she would do.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of times people feel, from the research that I've seen out there, and like from what I have experienced, my mom, I go back to thinking, well, if she doesn't like it, is she going to like it now? Like it could, like, I just need to get better. I know this at just asking her. And if she doesn't like it, try the next one, then asking.
Mhm.
And then if she doesn't like it, try the next one. My first plan is to do a lot of TikToks, because my mother loves to dance. She,
Wow,
she
cool.
taught me as a young child how to dance, like the old, waltzes. They're different. She's from El Paso, Texas, and is Latin. So
Right.
there's the cumbias, the corridas. There's different cultural dances that she, at weddings, that people do there, and all over the world. And she taught me and my brother those dances. And
Right.
so she's gonna reteach me those, and I'm gonna teach her some new ones on TikTok.
Nice. That sounds really cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think that stimulation, along with, I like the sand idea. There's lots of books out there. People are putting out ideas all the time about, creative ways to get them engaged. And I know not everybody, my mom's physically pretty healthy. She did have a COVID kind of took her back a little bit
Yeah.
in her tennis abilities, but because she's not allowed to be out, and I mean, she's getting back at it, but it definitely has a lot to do with the isolation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It hurt a lot of people. Like as we all know. So,
Yeah.
but for
And
people with dementia or any illness of, isolation, seniors, just makes my stomach sick.
yeah, yeah, it's difficult, and it's still obviously in the UK, especially like COVID is still right at its height and
Mhm.
affecting a lot of people, and still many deaths, and even though we're having the vaccine, I think it's 15 million people have had the vaccine or the first dose of the vaccine now,
Wow.
um, which is great. But at the same time, if my grandma was still with us, I don't think we could have still gone and seen her, and that would be nearly a whole year. Her birthday is March 20th, so
Oh,
yeah, since then, so.
oh.
Yeah. Uh,
Well, so would you say that, like, what inspired you, what led you to writing My Grandmother Has Dementia? Like, it is definitely like, if you show a copy, like, the animation was well drawn. Excuse me. That is so adorable.
yeah, yeah, it's great. So yeah, I guess the illustrator Adam Walker Parker is amazing. Yeah, fantastic illustrator, and yeah, I just sent him some pictures of my grandma, and this was sort of summertime last year, so sort of July, August, around that time, and I just sent him some photos, and he just absolutely nailed it. I couldn't believe it when he sent me the pictures back. I was like, so. Just a little example. This is my grandma when she lived in the care home. Sort of the start of the book is, she was a little bit bigger and things like that when she lived alone, when she was a bit younger. And then at the end, you can see here how he's made those.
Oh yeah,
It's really cool.
she does.
Yeah. So, and that's a really, the picture at the back of the book. It's a lovely tribute.
Yeah,
She's holding up a newspaper article about the book too, which and you can just see the smile on her face.
very proud.
She's amazing. And then underneath is a poem that I'd written and read at her funeral as well, which was really emotional. But I really wanted to have that in the book as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
The fact that when you said that that your plan was to read it with your grandmother and that did not happen, it is something that, those days, you know hug your loved ones tight.
yeah,
Always tell them you love them even if you can't hug them,
yeah,
um because of these times. Like, you're not expecting. When my mom was diagnosed with dementia, the doctor said it could be 2 years, it could be 10 years. You never know, right?
yeah.
It's were you expecting your grandmother? Like, was it
No,
a shock,
no,
obviously? Or, I mean, and you knew that she has dementia, but, like, were they saying that come, the next month, she's no longer going to be with you?
No, not at all. It was unexpected. I remember 2 years ago, maybe more. She was in hospital with chest infection, and she would get chest infections quite a lot. And then she weren't being fed. She was nil by mouth, so she weren't eating or drinking. And I remember a doctor said to me, when people with dementia stop eating or drinking, it's the end of the road, and I prepare yourself for that. And I was
Yeah.
like, wow, okay, I need to get ready. Then my grandma's gonna die, and she didn't. She lived another 2 years,
Yeah.
and and this was really unexpected. It was just like a water infection. It was just an infection, or I think, and I think her body just had enough really, and it was all over in the matter of sort of a week.
Wow.
So it was a shock,
Yeah.
but yeah, the care home were amazing, and my mum was allowed to be there, and yeah, it was really lovely. My mum told her, she was there when she left, when she passed, and which was really nice. So
Yeah. That's good that she could be there. And it's awesome that you have that dedication to her in that book. She will live infamously in everyone's home. We have a question from Brandon. He asked, what age group does your book target?
yeah, so around 4 to 10 years old. That's in the UK. That's that primary school age.
Okay.
And yeah, but I mean, I've, I've had so many pictures sent to me of people enjoying the book, which is incredible. But like, people that are with toddlers, like 2 years old, all the way up to some young women in San Francisco who sent me a picture. And they were 13, which is really cool. With the book. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
but yeah,
it's definitely something that that tells a story to start the conversation, to get children asking the whys that you can easily explain
that's
with,
right.
when it's not in a bad, when it's not that loved one lashing out at them, or like
Mm,
when my niece first discovered, or when we first got my mom diagnosed, my mom would drive her a different way to go to school, and this was an elementary school that I had gone to, my brother had gone to, always drove the same way, and then started getting lost, right?
right.
And would get frustrated when my niece would tell her, don't go that way, go this way. So it's definitely a good time earlier rather than later. James asks, where can we purchase the book?
Amazon worldwide. So yeah, just get on Amazon and just type it. My grandma has dementia, and yeah, it's all on Amazon.
I put the link in the YouTube bio, and you can also, I guess that would lead to a good, people can connect with you on Facebook and Instagram as well as LinkedIn, correct?
That's right. Yeah,
I'll link that
yeah.
back
So there it
up.
is. Yeah, Alex is the author.
So are you so what like, are you planning on having more books around this topic, or like, I know you have other books. Tell us a little bit about those, because it does, you made your foundation, and the inclusion part with special needs children is so very much needed, as
Yeah,
well as, you know I feel like there's that stigma with dementia, with anybody with dementia, how young or old they are, that they feel people shy away from them, right? But there should be inclusion for everyone. So share a little bit about
yeah,
that.
sure. Yeah, sure. So, I mean, the exciting thing is, my organization, Happy Smiles Training CIC, we're going to be using the book to do intergenerational reading. We're already doing it now between care homes and children in schools, which is awesome. And yeah, I'm really passionate, like you say, of showing children and young people about inclusion, about including everybody, and having a really inclusive and diverse society, and starting those conversations and questions. So, just as an example as well, my favorite scene in the book, just going back to the book, is this scene in the care home. If I can just show people,
Yeah.
because it's actually got some characters with children running around, but not just children. Hopefully, they'll spot like visual disabilities, like this little girl here, things
Hmm.
like that. And you've got people from different backgrounds, different races, genders, origins. So that's what we want. I really want to show children that just because a care home might be full of older people that you see, that doesn't have to be the way it has to be. We should try and include people from all backgrounds and situations. And yeah, someone said to me recently that they thought care homes were like jails, and people shouldn't go in care homes. And I was like, well, it's probably not the best thing to say to someone who's had a family member living in a care home, because I understand there's some terrible care homes, people have bad experiences, but my grandma had a wonderful time at Windsor House. And I think we shouldn't show children the negative stuff, like you say. We should try and say, look, this can happen, and we don't want to shy away from it, but here's a conversation starter to try and get those questions and those discussions,
Yeah.
those discussions flowing. So yeah, that's what I want to do. And I've got another 5 books coming out this year. So the next one's going to be on depression, which I'm really excited about. So yeah, we've got
Caregivers
different.
need it, definitely, I'll be interested, because caregivers suffer. Have you ever heard of, when I started doing the research on caregiving, there was a term that a lot of people said, that caregiving can kill the caregiver, right? And it starts
Right.
with, you know, isolation, depression, like every anxiety, everything, stress, that we don't, because we don't take care of ourselves first, so we can take care of someone else. And that
100%.
is, it's something that definitely needs to be talked about. So good for you. Brandon
Yeah.
says, this book will be perfect tool for helping him and his 2 young kiddos. And he also says that they can hear you. Oh, nope, that wasn't the right one. He said that they can hear you they can clear loud and clear. But Joe Melton does say, does he think you have an accent, Kimberly?
I can understand your accent perfectly. No, it's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
no,
no, Joe, he can understand me. So
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've got some friends. I've got sort of friends internationally from doing some work at a summer camp in America, in North Carolina in 2011. So I met people from sort of everywhere there, and yeah, it helps with understanding different accents. And
yes,
yeah, definitely.
definitely. Just we have to speak slower, and sometimes I just read. I'd ask, can you just repeat yourself? Or I didn't catch that, but yeah, I definitely have to speak slower because.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm trying consciously to speak properly, but if you heard people from my town speaking, they don't sound like this.
Well, when you and your mom were speaking on the live, like when she would speak and
Yeah,
you were speaking a little bit slower or kind of leading her along. It was a good balance because
yeah.
sometimes I didn't catch everything. I also had the captions on so I could read. And,
Good. Yeah,
I'm a little
it's
old sometimes. So.
no, it's good that the captions were on because yeah, it's a good accent. But
Yes,
yeah,
definitely.
but yeah,
Well, Alex, I really want to thank you again for joining me and sharing, your work and sharing the book with us. It's definitely something that I look forward to telling more of my friends about and others, and also using as a resource on our ever evolving website. But because we're always looking for resources for people that are coming into this experience. So thank you again. I appreciate your
thank you.
time so much. And we'll definitely have to have you back when you come out with that other book.
Yeah, no, that
So,
of course. Yeah, no, I'd love to.
okay.
Yeah,
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate you.
no worries. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
And I want to thank our sponsors. We're wrapping up. Um, and I'm not good with this outline. I'm just going to tell y'all, you know this, right? I just want to thank everybody for being here today and joining us and asking questions, Alex. If you do watch on the replay and you have a question for Alex, please leave in the comments. He'll answer those as they come up. Maybe just tag him. And thanks to we do have an announcement. We have a new sponsor, a Live Be Communities, is donating a percentage of their application fees this month of February. And so big shout out to them and Elaine and her team. Thank you so much. Along with, I'm going to throw up our other sponsors here real fast so I don't miss anybody. But we have, hold on, everyone. Oh, there we go. I'm a Soap Addict, Salon D, Approved Shields, Spherex, Aesthetic Hustle, Short Production, Rich B, Blue Jay Nutra, AK Realty again. And I didn't get Live B on this slide, but I will for next time. Also, remember to share, engage, follow, and connect with us anytime you can. And last but not least, let me take this slide off because I don't have a back-end producer today, but that's okay. We all just got out of a polar vortex here in Texas, so I'm just happy that we have electricity and water. But last but not least, am I missing anything? Oh, yes. And I'll be posting some pictures of some of the caregivers that we were able to donate to. Floyd and his daughters, Liv, as well as Javier. And we're really excited about those. So I'll be posting that. And if you know a caregiver that is in need, needs a little help with groceries, has some busted pipes now, we want to help you. We have raised a little over $8,000 that we're excited to be able to give to some unpaid caregivers that are in need. So please reach out, doaswedo.org, or email me, kscott@doaswedo.org. And remember, it takes a village and sharing is caring. So until next time, y'all, have a good one. Bye.